What if you could have a mechanical style keyboard that is super smooth and doesn't click? Enter the DrunkDeer A75. When the email came through asking if I'd feature this, honestly, the name intrigued me first. Next was the delight that I felt when I saw that this thing comes shipping with Apple modifier keys as standard. Command, Option and Control are all exactly where they should be. Don't worry though, if you're a Windows user, you get a little bag of keys that you can pop on there instead. Now there's also a nice little aluminium volume knob on the top right corner which works perfectly with Apple's volume controls, although it is only like one key away from the standard volume buttons in the function row, so whether you actually need it or not is basically up to you. It does feel nice though. Now I'm not exactly a keyboard connoisseur, but I love me some RGB as much as the next guy, and this gives you the full disco options with swirling rainbows, or you can be a little bit more subtle with single colours and adjust the brightness to suit your setup. The keyboard itself is wired only with no battery and no Bluetooth here, but given the amount of battery that backlight rave would likely sap, I think that's pretty reasonable. The supplied cable is USB-C on both ends, and you get a nice white braided cable at that. And there's even a handy USB-C to USB-A adapter included so that you can connect it to basically anything at this point. All those Mac specific keys at the top of the keyboard as well in the function row work exactly the way that you would expect. All you need to do is press function 2 plus M to set it into Mac mode, and you're well away. You don't need to use function to modify it or anything like that. It's great to see hardware support like this straight out of the box, as it's a sacrifice that you quite often have to make for the luxury of using a Mac. And why not treat yourself to the luxury feel of the subscribe button while you're here? The software side is slightly more disappointing though, because the software for customising the keyboard is currently in beta and only supports Windows at this stage, although I am assured that there is a Mac version of this on the way too soon. While custom key remapping is probably more important for gamers, it's also kind of annoying that we can't do it on the Mac from day one. That being said, adjusting the activation point on the keys can actually be done right from the keyboard. So if you want to have a light touch, you can have your keys activate after almost no movement at all, or if you prefer to be a little bit more deliberate, you can have them not register a press until they're basically right down on the deck. And you can set all of that up right on the keyboard itself. The typing experience itself is extremely smooth and it feels pretty effortless, though I'm used to typing on Apple's near zero travel laptop and iMac style keyboards, so there is a little bit of a learning curve and getting used to the feel of the keyboard. The keyboard quality feels really solid, even though everything that you can see is basically plastic, bar the volume knob on the outside. ABS plastic, but all the keys feel really stable and linear in their travel, and the double shot key caps are evenly lit from the LEDs below on basically everything apart from the F numbers on the F keys, but you can see the logos on them, so that kind of works for me. I like the little pop of colour too on the left shift and the enter keys. The key legends are clear and bold on everything, and there's close to zero flex in this keyboard at all, because it uses a metal deck internally. Rubber feet on the bottom keep the keyboard planted with zero sliding, and there are little fold out feet at the back that can give you a little bit of extra angle, although the thickness of this keyboard and the height of the keys for me is plenty coming over from the laptops. Now overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid piece of kit. It's a little quieter than your typical mechanical keyboards, but some might miss the click of activation, knowing audibly when the key is registered. For me though, having the option to change that activation point without having to, physically change out switches and hardware is tough to beat. So I would recommend this for anyone who spends a decent chunk of time typing and wants a bit more feel than that of a typical Mac keyboard. Thanks to DrunkDeer for sending this over for the review. I do have a new project coming up where I'll be taking my 2012 iMac and making it quad booting to a 32-bit version of macOS, hopefully Ventura, which is not compatible, so using OpenCore, Windows and Linux. So maybe we can revisit this once the Windows setup is done and play with that software too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.